Anthony Edwards just got better. Much better. Edwards was always a phenomenal player ever since he got to the NBA, but the improvements that he made from year 1 to year 2 were very nice to see, but the improvements that he's made from year 2 to year 3 are also pretty significant. And at this point, I would definitely say we're seeing the best version of Anthony Edwards so far throughout his young NBA career. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. I also want to quickly mention that I recently started up an MMA channel, and if you guys are interested in that, the link will be in the description. But anyways, let's get into it. Anthony Edwards was drafted with the #1 overall selection during the 2020 NBA draft by the Minnesota Timberwolves. And originally when he was drafted, it was very apparent that this guy was extremely talented. He was insanely athletic, he had a nice ability to drive and finish around the basket in general, he had a decent mid-range jump shot as well, he had the ability to hit a 3-point jump shot, although it wasn't all that refined, he certainly had that ability, and overall he was just a great scorer. In terms of his other abilities, like his passing and playmaking ability, as well as his defense, they were seen as a work in progress, but it was certainly seen as something that he could improve upon and actually turn into a pretty good player in those aspects. And originally when he was drafted, although he was extremely talented and that was pretty apparent, there were some concerns on draft day due to some reports that came out saying that Anthony Edwards wasn't necessarily sure if he wanted to play basketball for the rest of his career or he wanted to switch to football either somewhere down the road or at that point. So whether or not Edwards was actually going to go through with that, it didn't really matter. The fact that was in his head kind of was a concern to certain teams, because if you're drafting a guy with the #1 overall selection, you have to be sure that they're 100% certain on playing basketball for the rest of their career. Because if they're not, it doesn't really matter how much talent they have. If they're not fully focused on basketball, they're not going to be the best player they possibly could. But luckily for the Minnesota Timberwolves, as time went on, it was pretty clear that Edwards was fully focused on basketball. And in his rookie season, he played phenomenal, averaging 19 points per game on 41% shooting from the field, 4.7 rebounds on 2.9 assists. Just great numbers for any player, but especially for a rookie. And the great thing about Edwards in his rookie season is he was looking like a legitimate NBA star out there. There were certain stretches and certain flashes where he just looked unstoppable. Nobody could stop him out there in the court. But overall, he was just consistently good. He was putting up efficient numbers, I would say. He was doing a nice job at scoring from all 3 levels. Now, he did struggle from that 3-point range. On the year, he only shot 33% from deep, but overall, he did a nice job at spreading it throughout, not just solely driving all the way to the basket. But once he did drive to the basket, he showed his crazy athleticism and his crazy skill by either A, dunking over players, or B, just finishing around them with crafty layups, or even getting N1 finishes. And after his phenomenal rookie season, people were just very excited to see what this guy can do going forward long term. And in his second season, Edwards made a nice improvement from year 1 to year 2. During that 2021 season, Edwards averaged 21 points per game on 44% shooting from the field, 4.8 rebounds on 3.8 assists, just bumping up his numbers across the board. Now, while the improvements that he did make weren't the most significant on paper at least, I felt like when you watched him out there in the court, it was pretty clear that he was a much better player out there. I would say the biggest difference between year 1 and year 2 for Edwards was he was just A, a lot more controlled out there, but also B, just had a better understanding of the game. He was finding his teammates a lot easier, he was getting them a lot more open opportunities, and even though he's not a point guard, having the best player on your team or one of the best players on your team that has that basketball IQ and has that ability to find open guys is just going to be extremely important. Because as great as Anthony Edwards is, there's going to be a lot of times when he gets doubled or even triple teamed. So when those times do happen, if Edwards has the patience and has the basketball IQ to find his teammates for open shots, it's just going to make the Timberwolves that much better. But after his really good 2021 season, during the 2022 season so far, which is this year, Edwards has improved even further. On the year, he's averaging 23 points per game on 46% shooting from the field, 6 rebounds on 4.5 assists, just bumping up his numbers once again across the board. Now this season on paper, you do see a little bit more of a jump, but once again, it's not super significant. He's not bumping up his points by 6 points per game, he's not bumping up certain other stats by a bunch, but it is a very nice improvement. But once again, I feel like the numbers don't tell the full story about Anthony Edwards and the jump that he's made from last year to this year. This year, I feel like he's once again just looks a little bit more refined out there. He looks a little bit more under control. His basketball IQ is getting a little bit better. His passing and playmaking ability is getting better. He's just making overall improvements from top to bottom. Now, I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, but that's exactly what you want to see from your young guys. If your young player that you drafted consistently gets better season after season, no matter what level that player's at, if they're just consistently improving year after year, that's exactly what you want to see, because what that tells you, more so than anything else, is that player's working extremely hard on their game. And at the NBA level, all these guys are extremely talented. So in my opinion, what differentiates the best from the really good players, or even the really good players from the decent to bad, what differentiates these guys is hard work. If you work extremely hard on your game season after season, you're probably going to be pretty good out there. Now, obviously, just because you make it to the NBA and you work extremely hard, it doesn't mean you're going to be one of the best players in the NBA. Of course, talent is still involved in differentiating these guys. But if you don't work hard on your game, there's a decent chance that you're going to be out of the league in a couple seasons. So the fact that not only does Anthony Edwards have a ton of talent, and in my opinion, I think he has superstar type talent, but he also works extremely hard on his game, I feel like that's a huge differentiating factor for him, and certainly a huge reason for why he's improving season after season. Now, going forward long term, there still are certain things I would like to see improvement from Anthony Edwards, of course, like that 3-point jump shot shooting percentage. I would like to see him take some better shots at times from that 3-point range, but also I would like to see him work on that 3-point jump shot a little bit more. Of course, I'm sure he has been doing that already, but it's something that takes time and something that I'm not necessarily all that concerned about. I do think eventually he'll be able to shoot around 37-38% from deep, which is certainly really good. And if he's able to do that and just be that much more of a threat from out there, just imagine how much better his overall game is going to be. Because if the defenses need to focus a lot more on his 3-point jump shot shooting and need to play him a lot higher, then it's just going to be that much easier for him to drive all the way to the basket, get by his initial defender, and either A, dunk on whoever's in the paint or finish around them. I also think it would open up more opportunities for passing and playmaking, because if he blows by his initial defender and now the defense sends 2 guys in the paint, now it's an easy pass to the corner for a wide open 3-point jump shot. I just think adding a very consistent 3-point jump shot for any player just makes your game that much more dynamic, but especially for a guy who's as good driving to the basket as Anthony Edwards is. But overall, going forward long term, I would expect Anthony Edwards just to continuously improve his game season after season, and eventually within the next 4 or 5 seasons, I would be very surprised if Edwards doesn't turn into a superstar type guy. I think he's that talented, and I think he does have the work ethic to get there. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening with Edwards in his career, but I do think that the Minnesota Timberwolves have an absolute gem in Anthony Edwards. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Anthony Edwards is just going to continue to improve his game until eventually he becomes a superstar, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.